Hey everybody, welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. Today we have Reverend Stephanie Red Feather, the author of this book, The Evolutionary Empath, a practical guide for heart-centered consciousness. And in the first segment, we were talking about the opportunity and or challenge that we have as the world gets crazy and how we can reframe our thinking about it. In this segment, we're going to talk about what happens to our energy body during these times, and how we can actually use some techniques that you have in your book. You talk in your book about two different techniques, kind of a daily practice that you do, and then kind of a practice that evolves from that. So I was wondering if you can share that with us. So
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you.
Welcome, hello.
Yes. Well, and I just like to back it up because I imagine your viewers are a range of experiences, and so
hmm
for people who aren't um, used to having this kind of conversation, we are energy beings, and one of the things that can be confounding, especially for a lot of people who are in whatever stage of awakening consciousness, is there's a part of us that remembers what it's like in spirit form. And in spirit form, the way we communicate, the way we navigate the dimensions, the concept of time and space, completely different. We don't have to have boundaries like we do on Earth. And so when we're in a human body, it can be very confounding. And, the title of one of my chapters is You and I Are One, but We Are Not the Same.
hmm
And it speaks to the fact that, yes, we all come from the same God stuff. We're all an individuation of creator. But here on planet Earth, our human bodies are different.
hmm
We are our own individual sovereign field. And it is not, it doesn't go against spiritual law to say, you and I are different. And there's
mm
a place at which I end and you begin,
mm
and that you end and I begin, and that those distinctions are not only normal and healthy, but absolutely critical.
hmm
Because otherwise, if we cannot make that distinction, then we completely lose our sense of self. And
mm
as empaths, it's already our superpower to be overly compassionate, to unseat ourselves from our own throne, drop our anchor in another person, and live our life from their perspective.
mm
So we many of us walk around with a completely abdicated throne. There's nobody ruling our own kingdom.
Right.
Let alone are there any edges to our kingdom,
I can completely relate. You talk about in the book, um, I think you mentioned several times Anadea Judith. Is that how to pronounce her name? Yeah.
Anadea. Mm-hmm.
Anadea Judith. And in her book, she talks about different kind of energy types and how people deal with energies and and I'm the leaving type, or I think it's called schizoid type in the most unfavorable term for it, but it's about like leaving. And I think a lot of spiritual folks, they in your book you talk about, and you've spent a lot of your life about talking about embodiment and
Mm-hmm.
how, we get all spiritual during these times and we don't get practical and grounded and in our bodies feeling what we don't want to feel because it's unpleasant to feel. And you have two different things in your book about, well, first of all, I think one of the points that you just made is about boundaries. Like, how do you keep boundaries?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a boundary, it doesn't mean we're no longer one, or we're individuated consciousness and we're one. And it's about being in the herd, but being an individual
Mm-hmm.
cow or whatever you are, or a horse. So, so tell us a little bit about clearing your energy. I love that idea. I try to do it before we met today because I was just in an argument with my husband, and I thought, oh, here you are bringing this kind of energy to an interview with someone who's an empath. Maybe she can help you get in a better place.
Yes, yes. So there are different levels of energy practice. We can think of it as energy hygiene,
Mm-hmm.
so just like you have to brush your teeth and take a bath and all of those sorts of things, tending to your energy field really is a daily necessity.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we kind of fast forward, if you will, a few levels to the point that we all understand that we have an energy field, and you can think of the edges as a bubble or a cocoon or whatever. I have a client that thought of it as her hamster ball, like rolling around in her hamster ball, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
But you are responsible for what is inside of that, and consciously or not, what you let in and what you let out. And so specifically when we're talking about cleansing our field, it's just a matter of bringing some conscious practice to it. So it's like dusting. If you look at what dust is, it's just an accumulation of carpet fibers and dead skin and animal dander and
Right.
whatever. So it's just stuff that accumulates. So
Right.
we get energetic dandruff, if you will, dross that accumulates, as well as some things that can be harmful.
Right.
Somebody might be sending a negative thought towards you, or whatever. And so the simplest tool, I list many tools in the book, but one of the simplest is simply using your breath, because everybody has breath. There's no tool that you have to go out and purchase. And so just in applying your imagination, your inner vision or your feeling body to the process of taking a deep breath in through your feet, pulling in the energies of Mother Earth, just like a tree draws nutrients up through the roots, bringing it up into the body. And then with an exhale, imagining everything that doesn't serve you, clearing out your body, down that root system into the earth, giving it to Big Mama because she can transmute it. And if there's another visualization that you would like to use on the out breath, some people like to imagine being under, a special waterfall, or having angels brush them with wings. Whatever works for you. Doing that several times can, just in 1, 2 or 3 minute session, can make all of the difference. As a person is developing their practice, I think it's most crucial to do this at night. If you're going to do it once a day, I'd say do it at night, so that you can sort of enter into that clean slate time of sleep and restoration unhindered. If you're going to do it twice a day, do it in the morning, do it at night. But, multiple times a day is really necessary, because we're dynamic beings. That's just the way it is. It's, I wish it was like setting a knob on a stereo, for anybody who remembers knobs and dials on a stereo, like the equalizer or whatever. You set the level and it stays. Well, we
Right.
can't just set the level in our energy field and it stays. We have to stay in conscious relationship with it.
Okay, so I'm just curious, for you who's an empath and you're working with clients daily. Here you are with the radio interview with someone who just had an argument with her husband. So let's actually go through and clean both of ourselves. Can you go do it? Can you step us through kind
Yeah.
of your evening or morning practice? And then as a question, how often do you do this during a day?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So there are some practices that I've done long enough so there's multiple sort of levels of consciousness that I engage with. So in the morning, I do a conscious practice. Throughout the day, my body is trained enough that it will just take a deep breath on its own, and I'll be doing something and I'll be like, oh, apparently I needed to clear something. So there's, it
Right.
kind of becomes an automatic process because my body's so used to it. And then there's moments of dealing with whatever comes up in the moment.
Mm.
Like recognizing, okay, my inner critic or my inner judge is really chewing on me right now. What is that about? Let me stop and do a process here. Or, boy, I am really feeling claustrophobic and getting emotional, and I don't think this is mine. Let me go do a practice to clear my field so I can make sure that I hear myself. So some of it is just dealing with what happens in the moment, and some of it is just dealing with creating a regular structure of energy practices. And I do other things that help amplify. I diffuse essential oils. I have oils that I put on my body. I go outside multiple times a day and feel the sun or walk in the earth or touch a tree, so all of these other things accumulatively work together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So why don't you step us through? I know you're saying that what I heard is that you're doing lots of different things for someone who's just beginning, even trying this.
Mhm.
Um, I'm hearing one, do it during the moment where you can feel a contraction or something funky going on. And is there a time period, like when you started off, did you check every hour or 2 hours or breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Do you have a process or you just kind of,
It's more intuitive for me, so I invite people to go with what works for them. If some people need structure, then give yourself that structure: morning, afternoon, night, especially if you're a practitioner, after every client. um, so I don't think there's one right answer. There's
okay,
just what,
okay, cool.
sometimes a person will need to experiment.
I know you just stepped us through this, but would you mind stepping us through again
Yeah,
this checking
yeah,
in process and maybe step us through like a meditation to do that?
absolutely. Yeah. So close your eyes. And normally I'd have a stand, but that's a little bit logistically tough. So just sit on the edge of your chair so that your feet can both be flat on the floor. And just imagine that your bare feet are sinking into whatever your favorite earth stuff is. So that could be mud or grass or sand or water. And just really feel yourself rooting into Mother Earth. And at the same time, through your crown, connecting to the great all that is, your higher self, the benevolent ones. And take a moment to visualize your energy container. And for the percentage of population that isn't visual, then use whatever other senses you would like, a sense of knowing or a sense of feeling, to check in with your energy boundary. It's a 360-degree sphere. So check in with the status of your field, both above and below, left and right, front and back. Are there any holes in your field? Any rough spots? Any unevenness? Any dark spots? However that presents itself to you, just notice what your field is showing you about its current status. And with your intention, you can imagine using your arms as paintbrushes or whatever tool works for you to flow those rough spots into smoothness, to connect the connective tissue of your sphere, if you will, to close up the holes, to bring the whole thing into balance and integrity. And I'm moving kind of quickly through the process. And so next we move to 3 deep breaths, which you will breathe in through the bottom of your feet, up your entire body to the top of your head. And exhaling down your body, releasing anything that does not serve, energetic dross, other people's emotions, whatever is not yours, releasing it to the earth. Inhaling again. Drawing up nutrients, beneficial energy, electromagnetic frequency from the earth into your personal grid. Exhaling again, making noise if that helps you. And a third and final breath, breathing in high frequency, vibration, clear light energy. Up the body, up to the head, clearing your field one last time. Releasing everything from your sovereign field that does not serve you, that is not of your making and not of your choosing. Releasing it to Mother Earth, just like she can turn manure into fertilizer. Let her have it all. And just notice now how you feel, just in those few moments, clearing and connecting. There might be a sense of tingling or vibration, a different sense, a feeling of lightness. Just notice what there is to notice. And then very gently opening your eyes.
Interesting. So when I did that, I could feel my whole field was shifted over to this left. It was like almost like if it were a bubble, it was
Mm-hmm.
like shifted over to the left. And I was trying to shift it over to the right so that it would be the hamster wheel that you were talking about surrounding my body in a harmonious way. Um, and so it's just the imaginal process of just imagining as if my energy, and I saw in the book like I can actually just imagine I can pull the energy in around my body or like to create the sphere, so that it's kind of like centered. And it's funny now that I'm doing this, my right foot is buzzing, so it's so like
Mm-hmm.
putting it down. So that's a way to basically clearing the energy body. And one of the things that you also had, and so you have deep breaths in the book, you have all these other, you have about 4 or 5 different, 7, 8 different methods in addition to that. So get the book if you want to see the other uh, ideas. And then the other was building your container, seeing if it's weak, if there's any leaks. And I think you talked about it like in this example too, like was there any gaps or
Mm-hmm.
leakages. And in the book, I was trying to look for this. You talk about people who either they have two different kinds of leakages, either you're like me and you basically have external stuff that you push something off to other people, or you internalize it and don't say what you want and like and have an internal leakage. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that and um, what that means? And you also talk about kind of a protection that you can do, or like you had, I can't remember what exercise it was specifically, but when I did it, it was like thinking about the people in your bubble and what kinds of people are ones that maybe you should avoid or aren't as helpful for your field. So I was wondering if you can talk about all of
Yeah.
those things.
Yes, yes. So those leaks that you're talking about, it's just kind of like a semi-permeable membrane, like we learned about in biology, if anybody remembers that things can transmit across that membrane in both directions. And so I labeled them cave-in leaks and blowout leaks.
Hmm.
And I list examples, like real life examples of behaviors that
Hmm.
demonstrate what it means to be a blowout leaker. So, blowout is just like what you think. You have air in a tire, and it's energy moving outwards, and
Yes.
so it can show up in a lot of different ways, from talking over other people, like not listening, not letting other people finish their sentence. It's like it's anything, you can see where I'm like reaching out, smothering people. It's anything where your energy is going out into another person and basically interfering with them in some way, or not containing yourself behind your own sovereign wall. Um, Cave-in leaks are the other direction,
Yep.
and so it's like water leaking into a boat, where we let everybody else's expectations, beliefs, what they think we should do or how we should feel, or their opinions overpower our own, and basically we just collapse on ourselves
Mm.
because we have no fortification to keep our energy field intact. And so it's not, most people generally have a predominant pattern, but it's more common that, there's going to be a few things from each type of leak that you'll identify with, but most people tend to be one more than the other. And so I also list in the book the remedies, things that you can do,
Hmm.
to manage that, to establish healthy boundaries for yourself.
Hmm. Okay, cool. So um uh we've been talking to Reverend Stephanie Red Feather, the about her book, The Evolutionary Empath, a practical guide for heart-centered consciousness. So we just shared one of of many different techniques that she actually has in the book. What you can do if you're picking up energy or leaking in or exploding your energy out. I'm sorry, I don't remember the actual term.
Blowout. It's okay.
Blowout, you're blowing out. Some techniques that you can use during these challenging times when I think it's very easy to either blow out or kind of cave in. Um, Thank you so much. And what I wanted to do in the next section is talk about how people know if they're an empath and kind of you have some really fun, not fun, I mean, I don't know. You have some examples in the book about tests that you can take. Are you an empath or you're not? What are some of the characteristics of empaths? We'll go over that in the next section. Thank you so much.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.